Well, finally got myself a mini bike. I've wanted one of these for years now and finally decided to get it. In this video, we're gonna go pick it up, bring it home, rip around on it, do a bunch of modifications. And again, this is part one for a little side series on my channel because there's an unbelievable amount of modifications you can do to these mini bikes and engines. So enjoy part one. Brought my mini truck into work today, and on lunch break here, me and my brother are going to pick up 2 mini bikes. Kind of been thinking about getting one of these for a long time, and today's the day. So you're here yesterday checking them out. There was more.
There were more, so...
You really think 2 or 3 mini bikes could have sold in 24 hours?
They might have.
So I looked at these about a year ago. Some of them had some really bad looking welds. I don't know, but just gonna pick out the best ones here. You could always fix up some welds, but they were $100 cheaper last year. Should have made the purchase. They're $749 right now. They were $649 last summer, but they got a lighting coil, so that's kind of a cool feature. So they all got some pretty chicken poopy looking welds here, but they're gonna all be touched up. I have a feeling I'm gonna be modifying mine anyways and beefing a few things up, and probably shouldn't be a big problem. This is just a starter platform. Honestly, when you start pricing all the parts and rims, engine, all that kind of stuff and time to make them, plus the lighting coil and the engine and front forks, like it's hard to beat, actually, especially the 650 they were selling for last summer. But 750 is not bad to have good times, right? Mini bikes and mini trucks. So right off the bat, you can tell just by looking over the bikes, they're set up very poorly out of the box from some random hardware associate. Throttle had a ton of slop in them, brake levers were all over the place, handlebars look like they're installed from some mid-80s BMXer. Not the best. Mini bikes. Finally made it happen.
Another sensible purchase.
41 years and finally got my first mini bike. Man, I remember looking at one of these at a garage sale. It wasn't like this. It was a smaller one and it had a terrible back brake. It was a scrubber style metal plate back brake. Yeah. But I remember looking at it and wanting it so bad. It was like $300 in like the mid 80s and couldn't talk mom and dad into it at all. They were like, no. I mean, realistically, it was too much in the 80s, but
now we don't have to talk anybody into anything. No. Just ourselves, and that was really easy to talk ourselves into that. We got to get mini bikes. There they are.
Dreams of reality.
Dream big.
I was thinking about it. Never owned a brand new car or motorcycle ever in my life, so brand new mini bike is a pretty big thing for me right back there. I can't stop laughing and smiling about that. Like I said, I picked this thing up on lunch break, so when I was done with work, me and some of my friends fired it up and rode around my shop for a while and figured out one simple modification we could do, and that was bending the throttle stop out of the way. Picked up another 5 miles per hour on it, which wasn't too bad. Gonna get rid of the chrome headlight here. I found out that it powers these LEDs just fine, so I'm gonna run dual LEDs up front here. I think it should look pretty good. Time to remove this and modify it. So I dug through my spare box of parts and found these cheap LEDs. They look like they're gonna fit the bill perfectly. And I even had the original mounting brackets still, so started installing them here. Kind of want to modify this bird beak. I don't care for it as much. So the LED lights were a giant upgrade for this machine, much better than the stock original one. Just puts out a lot better light for trail riding at night. Plus I like the dual look of them. Got some aluminum tubing here, 1/2 inch. We're gonna bend some kind of hoops for this, kind of protect it a little bit more and style it out. So let's get to that next. So I've been running this Hynade 200 amp AC/DC TIG a lot lately. I really like the layout of it. It's very similar to the Yeswelder 250P, but just a little simpler to set up with the bigger front panel. Whether you have this machine or you have the Yeswelder or some of these other TIG machines from overseas, they all run a very similar TIG port. And one thing I ordered for myself recently was I bought a CK torch with a Superflex lead. Big difference of these silicone leads, so I highly recommend it. After trying them out for a while, I reached out to the people at HTP to see if I could maybe get an affiliate program through them, and they set me up with a promo code for 5% off for my subscribers. So if you do much TIG welding, I highly recommend upgrading leads. It's definitely a big improvement on these machines. Man, these bikes are a lot of fun. I know they're just little mini bikes, no rear suspension, not much power, but when you're ripping around and you have a friend or two with them, it really feels like you're pushing the bike to the limit. They only have a rear brake at the moment of making this video, and so you kind of skid around a lot with them. They're not crazy on power, so you end up holding the throttle on a little bit later than you would on most things, just so you can keep your momentum coming in and out of the corners. I always had motorcycles growing up and riding, but something about these mini bikes just captures that essence of when you first get a motorcycle when you're a kid and the joys you have. And it's pretty neat to have that feeling when you're in your 40s to actually hop on a mini bike like this. Even though I've had really nice enduro bikes, something about riding these things just puts a smile on your face and kind of makes you feel like a kid again. Well, that was pretty fun. Did a little bit of mini bike ripping. So now the next thing we're going to tackle is I ordered a box of parts for this thing. The biggest thing I want to get on here is CV transmission. Get rid of this chain drive and the jack shaft here and put this on. We got a carb, we got a lot of other stuff we're going to do this engine later, but for now the CV, and move the pegs back. It's brutal on the back having chopper boss pegs out in front of you. So I'm going to mount the CV, and once we get that, we can determine where to put the pegs next. Let's get working on this. So here's those 1-inch spacers I cut for the motor here to raise it up a little bit to give enough clearance for the frame here for the CV. Because this is a 3/4 inch, most of these are 3/4 or 1 inch. This is a 5/8 shaft, much smaller than the Predator engines. I bought this shaft adapter that will slide on here and shim it out to 3/4. Now that we got the CV transmission on here, next thing we want to do is scoot these foot pegs back. And they're all chopper bossed out with the foot pegs way forward, so you can't really stand up on them very well. So we're going to scoot the foot pegs probably back to here. At some point I might get some really nicer aggressive style like spiky foot pegs, but for the time being we'll just move these ones back. Well, that foot peg mount is probably the nicest looking welds on this whole frame. Look at these ones. Those are some bone stock welds. So they had a problem with their shielding gas there. Let it spattered. So, a few updates on the mini bike. I had the torque converter on here for about a week. As soon as I put it on, I realized when you're rolling the throttle, there was like this a half a second delay before the clutch would engage when you rev it out. Just really awkward riding around thinking you're rolling on the throttle and it would have a lag before the actual clutch would grab the belt. There was a lot of things I didn't really care for it. One thing, it was slow, way slower than one was. My brother has the same bike, so we're able to run them side by side. The CV had a much more torque down low for the first 5 seconds of us racing, but my brother's bike would just pull away from this with the stock jack shaft setup. So that's what I went back to. Basically, the CV is not geared right for this with these big tires on here. It's got a 50 tooth back sprocket, so I ordered a 60 because riding around on the trails, I was only getting maybe a quarter of the CV range and the transmission to be used. And it just wasn't very good. It was super sluggish. Had a little more torque for going slow up super steep hills. Plus the bike's really hard to roll with from the belt drag. Another thing, I got rid of the giant stock exhaust. Ordered this little guy off of Amazon. Had to heat it and bend it to clear the frame better. I think it was for maybe a go-kart. I'm going to probably do a custom exhaust that sits up and tucks it away. But for right now, this gives a little bit more free-flowing exhaust system to kind of get a little more speed and power out of the bike. Making another really necessary modification to this thing. We live in a pretty mucky environment. It rains a lot and lots of mud. And these fenders are pretty short, so I'm getting spray up off the back of the fender and then off the front. My brother picked up a mud flap. There should be plenty of this material to make many mini bike mud flaps. Some of the old Yamahas and Hondas from the 70s, the Enduro bikes, would have a little rubber flap on the front of the fender, and it's going to kind of follow suit with that style. And it should be very beneficial. So we're working on that now. So at this point in the video, I want to make a big shout out to OK Builds YouTube channel. I'll put a link below in the description so you can check out his build series. He took a mini bike, one of these Colemans, and actually made a 2-wheel drive mini bike, kind of like the old Rokons. So it's a really good series. I highly recommend checking it out. Really happy how this turned out. Should help for mud protection. Just looks a little more like a little bit more of a rally bike. Rally mini bike. Man, thing's quite powerful. It's a mild tuning you did there.
Just got to get your carb on tonight now.
No governor, straight pipe. No carb, man.
That pipe's loud, man. I kind of like it, but it's loud.
Pretty cool. So here we're getting ready to actually pull the side case off to remove the governor, get a little bit extra RPM out of the engine. But the bummer thing is I realized because this has a smaller crankshaft in it, I'm not able to find any billet flywheels for them. The concern with pulling out the governor and tricking these engines out is the flywheels can actually explode from too high RPMs. So I think we're going to be cautious not to get the RPMs over 5,000. Probably won't be doing any stiffer valve springs or cam in this either, just because this engine might have a shorter life on this mini bike. If we can't get all those hop-up parts, we might end up just getting an engine from a Harbor Freight, like one of the Predators, and those things you can take them to the max with the hop-up stuff. So we'll see what happens in the next episode. Now there's a few extra washers we got to pull out back here too, where they could run a risk of getting in your engine. There's most of the governor right there. One of the other things I really like to appreciate about the mini bikes is just the simplicity. You got basically big balloon tires, one brake, a little bit of front suspension on this model, and an engine. Really simple. There's not much to it, and pretty light frames. So any of the hop-up stuff you do to this 200cc engine really actually brings out quite a bit of power because the frame's so light. Well, we've got these mini bikes pretty matched, running pretty good. Just modified a stainless steel plumbing fitting I got on Amazon for 10-15 bucks to this nice curved 45-degree intake. I don't understand why not many mini bike companies make these, because most of the time the carb's sticking way off the side. Seems ridiculous. It wasn't the easiest to modify as it's all stainless. It was a little difficult to drill and grind, but got port matched pretty well. Got them tuned. I think we raised the needle up. I think we dropped the clip, one clip from the center, so
Two from the bottom.
Two from the bottom. And we're running 120s in here.
Yeah, 120s. And
got them tuned up pretty well. Another thing that was important with these mini bike carbs is that float bowl right here. The float had to be lowered down quite a bit because they're very boggy if you tilted the bikes at all or if it went over any bumps. So we had to lower the float level on both of our bikes quite a bit. We're being not too tricked out yet. Oh, we got thinner head gaskets coming, so that's something to do. And he's got a straight pipe that's loud as hell, but I think it makes a little more power. And what kind of intake do you have here?
Tillotson.
Tillotson. You got that on a little carb site or a racing site?
Chad's mini bikes.
Pretty nice little setup there, so kind of streamlines them.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
The other one's just too far out there.
Should we do some drag racing?
Yeah.
All right. So we still got beat me to the punch every time. My bike still got a little bit of a bog. I need to sort out on the bottom end, probably play around with the needle height set a little bit more. And he's also got the straight pipe, which is hideously loud, but it actually makes a little more power. Once I pull my muffler off, it will be pretty matched usually, but I like to have a little bit of muffler on my bike, but working pretty good.